Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hello, you're listening to the podcast, So There I Was. It's how all great aviation tales begin. This is episode 95. You could hear the shrapnel hit the plane.
Yes, you could.
Oh my God.
I'm at a loss for words, and that doesn't happen very often.
Right, as am I. An American hero, an American legend, a true American treasure sat down with us tonight to talk. One quick admin note I'd like to mention, we're doing a show swap this week with another podcast. So if you like history, not current history, which is kind of what we're covering, some ancient history, the Warlords of History podcast at thewarlordsofhistory.com. We'll talk about that a little bit more during the show.
I just like the title Warlords of History.
Right? Yeah, it's cool.
I do like it. I'm intrigued by that.
It's now going to go into my rotation, I can tell you that. But another one that should bring this show into people's rotation is tonight's interview that we just did with Rosie.
Amazing.
He's 3 days younger than my mother, who is 98. And Rosie,
sharp as a tack.
Absolutely. He has better memory than I do.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not being hyperbolic about that. An amazing memory, very articulate, fun to listen to, enlisted in the Army Air Corps on his 18th birthday. 6 weeks of training.
Yeah, it was January 1944 is when he enlisted.
Yeah, January 21st, 1944 is when he enlisted. 6 weeks of training, home to say goodbye to his family, met some of the returning airmen at, I think it's Union Station in Chicago.
In Chicago, and they kind of told him, "Hey, it's a shit show where you're going," because we just left there, and then that's when it got real for him. It's like,
He said that put a knot in our stomach that stayed for the rest of the war.
He flew 32, 33 combat missions.
The war ended before he had to fly their mandatory number. I remember that.
Yeah.
It was like 32 missions as a nose gunner in the B-24. That's some kind of big airplane, a 4-engine bomber, nose gunner, tail gunner, turret. Those guys fit in these little tiny, I don't know, imagine crawling under your desk and having refrigerated air blowing on you at minus 40 degrees.
Minus 40
for
degrees,
3 hours.
No pressurization. Oh my gosh, the environment that they were in was inhospitable, to say the least. And then you throw on top of that, he says, well, when we were going in, it was only 150 guns. That was an easy day. 150 AAA guns was an easy day.
That wasn't so bad.
That wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tease it. The story he opens with, that made all the hair on my arms stand up,
Yeah.
I'd say hair on the back of my head, but I don't have any hair on the back of my head.
If you had it,
It was standing up if I had it. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But unlike our F-16 brethren who described the surreal surroundings when the flak was going off around them, you could see it, but they couldn't hear it. He says, oh no, we could hear it. And sometimes you could hear the shrapnel hit the airplane.
Yeah. It peppered his glass, his plexiglass on the nose. Yeah, dude. Okay.
And he walks us through what it was like in the life of an enlisted man.
Yeah. Day in the life of an enlisted air crewman in a B-24.
Yeah.
It is surreal. It was amazing. It was humbling, and it was an honor to talk to him and hear it in person.
Yeah.
So this isn't something you're reading in a book. This is the real deal right here.
It is the real deal. And I think it's time for you folks to hear it in person too.
At night.
Here's Rosie.
In the world's smallest cockpit, on the tanker, through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond.
I was, of course, I was a nose gunner on a B-24 bomber, and we were flying missions, and this was probably our 20-some mission. And we always, when we brief us when we were going to go to the site. They would brief how many anti-aircraft guns they would have. And so we'd always say, well, if they had about 100 guns, that's not too bad. 300 or 400 guns, that's bad. So the place we were going to St. Valentine, Germany, or Austria, and they had about 150 guns. So we thought, well, that's not too bad. It's going to be okay. So anyway, we were flying along, getting ready to. We always had a number of planes, a group. There'd be 28 planes flying over at the same time. And so we turned it on what we call the PI. We were going to go over the target. And just about the time we got to the target, it hit this big bang. And it was right out in front of me because I was in a nose turret. I thought, boy, they didn't get us that shot, but the next one they're going to get us. We're dead. And that's what we all thought. We were dead.
Yeah.
And we were sitting there waiting for the next shot. That's it.
That's got. I have ice water running in my veins right now, Rosie. Oh, because I'm in the middle of the series. The one that just started that depicts the 8th Air Force.
Masters of the Air.
Masters of the Air. And
so that's how all great aviation tales begin. Who's talking?
Hey,
look to your left and tell us who you are.
Hey, this is Fig, and boy, am I excited for this interview. I just got home from a trip, and my timing is perfect because I am back at home in Kearney, Missouri. Where's my co-host?
I am coming to you from Maastricht in the Netherlands, which was yesterday was just across the German border, the place of many of the targets that our tonight's guest was going for some 75 to 80 years ago. Our guest tonight, none other than Rosie, not a pilot, but you don't need to be a pilot. You need to love aviation, which clearly he did. And he spent much of World War II, the end of World War II, in the nose turret of a B-24 bomber.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. What a terrifying place to be, but also amazing. You're going to hear tonight, folks, or today or this morning, wherever you happen to be, you're going to hear
first-hand account.
First-hand account of what it was like to be in a B-24. And you're going to hear, what I wanted to say is you're going to hear why this is the greatest generation. So to you, Rosie, we welcome you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
We're honored and humbled.
Such an honor. Such an honor.
So, but take us back to the beginning. Where were you when the war broke out, and how long did it take you to decide that you wanted to take part?
Okay, well, I lived on a ranch back in Kansas, small cattle ranch, and born there and raised there until I left to go to the service, of course. But I was 13 years old when the war came along. Prior to that, I'm a depression baby because that's where we were poor, very poor family, and we had hardly anything to eat, and people was very poor. The Dust Bowl happened during that time. So I come from a very humble family.
Yes, sir. And what exactly was the Dust Bowl? I think we all have, many of us have a picture of it.
It was in 34 and 36, and that's when all the people left for Oklahoma for California. They couldn't survive. It didn't rain for 2 years or 3 years at all. And you couldn't raise crops because we were farmers. And couldn't raise crops. And so it was a very bad time. And luckily I was only in my teens or early teens or pre-teens, so I didn't realize the severity of the situation. But anyway, when I was 13 years old, that's when they announced the war starting in Europe between Germany and England and France. And being 13, and everybody said, we're going to be in the war. And I said, well, I'm only 13. I'm not going to be in the war. So we kind of let it be. So when I went ahead and go to high school, I graduated from high school when I was 17. And as a teenager, I was anxious to do something. And of course, they were getting ready for the invasion of France. that was foregone conclusion. And I was born a coward, and I didn't want to be in the infantry. So I said, I'm going to go join the Army Air Corps. At that time, it was the Army Air Corps. So I tried to go join, and I took my physical. I flunked the physical because they said I had a heart murmur. So I said, okay, now what am I do? So I went to work for just a few months down at the airplane factory in Wichita. And then I said, I'm going to try one more time. I'm going to get in the Air Force somehow. So the next time I took a physical, he said, you got high blood pressure and you're too nervous.
Oh my
you can't have it. And I said, I got to get in. I told him, I got to get in because I didn't want to be in the infantry because I knew as soon as you turn 18, you're in the Army. That's
right.
The way it was. Yeah. So anyway, I finally talked to the guy and pleaded with him to pass me, and he did. And so
nice.
So anyway, so I said, "Oh, that's great. Now I'm going to be an officer. I'm going to be a cadet. I'm going to be an officer. I'm going to be a pilot, or a bombardier, or a navigator." That was the 3 officer positions.
Right.
So I got it. So I signed up for that, ready to go. And so the day I was 18, got my notice and went in the service, and we went to Jefferson Barracks, Missouri for our basic training. And we were there for about a month and about 6 weeks. Supposed to be there for 3 months. Got there 3 weeks, and they said, the management says, we're running out of aerial gunners. So you guys are no longer going to be cadets and officers. You're going to be aerial gunners. So they shipped us off to Kingman, Arizona, aerial gunnery school. And we spent about 3 months there learning how to shoot machine guns and pistols and carbines. That was the three weapons.
Okay.
And so we got that. And then after 3 months, said, okay, now we're going to go crew training. So they sent us to Lincoln, Nebraska. It says, all right, this is where you're going to pick up your crew. And so it was very kind of exciting and scary because we're going to pick up, like in my case, we're going to pick up nine partners. Never met them before, didn't know anything about them. They didn't know anything about me. But anyhow, they threw us together. And so anyway, that's how our crew was furnished together.
Wow.
And but luckily everybody's always about what kind of a pilot are we going to have, for crying out loud, because we had no control over, But we got a pilot. He was 21 years old, and that guy was something else. He was a gentleman from the square one, the greatest guy I ever met, to tell you the truth.
But he was the old man at 21.
Yeah, he was. There was 2 guys older than he was, but he was a boss. He was our leader. We'd go anywhere for that guy because he was a great pilot, very good leader, and just very always.
What was his name, sir?
James Nixon.
Okay.
And so anyway, we had these 5 of us, but what I always thought was kind of interesting. All the guys were city guys, but me, I was this farm boy.
Yeah.
I was kind of kind of fish out of water, so to speak. So I always like to say the guys were all streetwise, but me, I wasn't very streetwise. So.
Hey, Rosie, what part of Kansas did you grow up in?
I was in southeastern Kansas. Southeastern Kansas, south of Topeka, about 50 miles. Topeka, yeah.
I'm not too far from there. Right now, I'm in Kearney, Missouri. We're just across the state line there.
Yeah. So I of course, my family were French. They came from France. They all lived in Opie, which is about 20 miles from where I lived. And it was a 99% Catholic, Roman Catholic community. And that's why I'm a Roman Catholic. And so anyway, we lived there all my until I was 24 years old when I left the home, So anyway, where was I?
Well, you had met your crew in Lincoln, Nebraska. You met the pilot.
Yeah, and it was an interesting crew. We had our navigator. He was the oldest guy. He was, I think, 25 or 6 years old.
Oh, geez.
He was old. He was an old man, And I think the next oldest, our flight engineer, was 22 or 23. And of course, our pilot was 21. Our co-pilot was 20. And tail gunner was 18, and I was 18. And I think a couple of the guys are 19, mostly 19 years old. So we were really a young crew. And they called us a young crew. Everywhere we went, we were a young crew because we were the youngest crew.
Wow.
The thing we had was...
I'm going to do this just on a whim because the weirder things have happened in life. But I have to ask, when I was in college, I worked with a gent at the state licensing board for contractors in Louisiana, and there was a B-24 tail gunner that I worked with there. His name was Cactus Martin. Ring a bell?
No.
Okay, I had to try. Yeah, I don't know his first name. I think it was Jim, but it was Cactus Martin. Yeah. So
I was going to say that man's name was Cactus.
Yeah, and that's what everybody called him, Cactus. And
all right.
We had a kind of an interesting crew. Like I say, we had a great pilot. He was from Philadelphia, and just a great man. But our co-pilot, he was 20. He'd never been in a B-24 before, and he was assigned co-pilot to B-24.
Yeah.
And in fact, the only person on our crew that had ever been in a B-24 was the pilot. He knew how to fly. He was a pilot. He checked out pilot B-24. The rest of us never been in a B-24. They didn't know what they're talking about. So,
wow.
Could you point to an airplane and say airplane? It sounds like that was the qualification. Oh my God.
So anyway, I was my pilot. He was like, what a bunch of motley crew he's got, because none of them had ever been in a plane. Because I'd flown this B-17 during gunnery school, but I'd never been in an airplane. And several of the other guys, and tail gunner, the same way. He'd never been in an airplane before. And so it was
insane. Well, let me back up. I know everybody's dying to hear the airplane stories, as am I. But so your 18th birthday, you go down, you enlist, and you wind up in training. What was training like? I imagine it was very different than it is today.
They called those days basic training, and what you just you learn to march and how to discipline, how to respect officers and how to salute, all the basic things and usually that always happened for 3 months. You do a little training in maybe a carbine rifle training a little bit. But that was all set aside because we were there on 6 weeks. We were supposed to be there 3 months. They said, you're going to go to gunnery school. So we missed out on most of our basic training. And so we for whatever reason, I was just standing around with my hands in my pockets, but I was on a fast track. We were all on fast track. Because they were really gearing up, the Army Air Corps was really gearing up. They wanted to pound everything that moved, which is what we did when we got over there. So anyway, so then we went to Casper, Wyoming. That's where we had our crew training. We were there for 3 months, and that's where the co-pilot learned how to fly B-24, and the rest of us learned how to shoot guns out of a moving target, at a moving target. And so, but after 3 months, they said, that's enough, got to go overseas now. So we all got physicals, and so when they come to me for my physical, you've got high blood pressure. You shouldn't.
Yeah, I'm going into battle. What do you expect?
Well, I told my pilot, I said, I can't leave you guys now.
No.
They wanted to ground me. And I said, no, I can't do that. No. Together. And I said, that wasn't fair to those guys. So anyway, as dumb as I was, I talked the flight surgeon into letting me stay on the crew.
Nice.
I look back and I thought, that's kind of crazy, wasn't he? But anyway.
Yeah, what were you thinking?
Anyway, so then the crew was over, and so we sent it home for 10-day furlough, and I said, get your personal affairs in order.
Yeah,
right.
May not come back, she said. So they told us that you may not come back.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did. So anyway, then we went. It turned out to end up at Topeka, Kansas, which is only about 50 miles from where I lived. So I got a little furlough, say goodbye to my parents one more time, and then we went on the way to the East Coast. We stopped in Chicago, and we met a bunch of guys at the depot, train depot, that just coming back, air crews just coming back from England, and they scared the hell out of us.
Oh boy!
It's because they were telling me it was bad, mortality rate was pretty high, and I always like to say that's when we got that knot in our stomach that was there the rest of the war. Yes. So. Anyway.
So you were changing trains, they were changing trains, and you're talking to each other in the coffee shops and such.
Exactly right. That's right. So, and so that's when I guess people ask me sometimes, when did you realize you might be going to war? I think that's when we realized. And I always remember I got that knot in my stomach.
No longer an abstract concept.
No, that's where it got real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So then they took us to Virginia, and that's where we embarked on a boat to a ship to overseas. So we got on our ship, and it was a Liberty ship in those days. That's when Kaiser was making all these Liberty ships for the war effort, and we was on a troop ship, and we were on it for 26 days. So we got overseas. Yeah, well, kind of interesting. On the way, it was in a convoy, and one night there was a big explosion, and a tanker right next to us in the convoy was torpedoed by a German submarine.
I was just about to ask you, was the U-boats in the Atlantic still a problem?
Oh yeah, they were a real problem. So we were in a convoy, and we had a lot of destroyer escorts, Navy escorts. And they were always flitting around, but somehow, they got through the screen or whatever. And so they torpedoed a couple ships in our convoy that we were aware of, because we had probably 100 ships in the convoy.
Oh my gosh.
And so anyway, we didn't sleep that night. And I might back up just a little bit. While my crew training, I was airsick every day.
Oh, I was going to ask about that, because it didn't seem like they cared, right?
Well, no, they did not. I always said, I could walk out. I told my pilot, I said, I could walk out to that bomber. I always got into the bomb bay. I said, all I had to do was just stuck my head in the bomb bay. I didn't even have 1 foot off the ground yet, and I was airsick.
That's not good. That's not good, Rosie.
Well, it was very
horrible.
Very hot. And a lot of people throwing up, so there's vomit all over the place, and then high octane gasoline. It just turned my stomach right then. But I hung in there, and my pilot hung in there with me. And so when we got ready to go overseas, got on a boat, I got seasick. But I had a sailor come up to me from the boat there in the ship, and he says, to get over this seasickness, just look at the horizon. Don't look at anything else. Spend about 3 hours looking at the horizon. Nothing else. Just look at the horizon. I did that. I never got airsick after that, or seasick after that. So he cured that. So
that was awesome. That was good advice then, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so we didn't know where we was going to go. Because nobody's saying he's going to go. We're going east. We know he's going to Europe. We didn't know where. Well, one morning we woke up and we saw the Rock of Gibraltar, and so then we knew we were going to Italy. So
okay.
Whoa, that's and I'm sorry. Where in Virginia did you go from? Norfolk.
That's Newport News. That was it.
Newport News. Yep. Okay.
We went to St. Patrick Henry base before we went to do.
Okay.
We were embarked.
And how many of you were cargo on that ship? Do you recall?
They must have been over 100. I'm sure there's over 100 people. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about your training, your aerial gunnery training, before we get too far down the road. Your aerial gunnery training, did you say it was Kingman, Arizona?
That was the, yeah, so that
So
right.
I know you said you shot machine guns and carbines and handguns, but did you actually get any experience airborne shooting the gun, or was it all on the ground?
2 times we hit one with Kingman. They took us down to Yuma, which is, and they were based down there, and they put us on a B-17 and just took us up to learn how to, not just to shoot, but how to, you had to have oxygen and, like stuff like that. We didn't know anything.
Because you were,
so
you guys were flying
how
around
not to pass out in your airplane.
Flying around unpressurized with no heat.
Yeah. So,
oh my gosh.
Well, anyway, then they just shoot at targets on the ground, like ground strafing. But that's all the training we had. That was my first time in an airplane. So it's exciting. I was an 18-year-old kid. It's fun.
I don't want to get too far ahead, and if you're going to cover this, just stop me. But so I have always wondered, aerial gunnery, from a door gunner, a nose gunner, or whatever gun position, how do you keep from shooting your own aircraft when you're swinging the gun, or your wingman you guys fly in this battle box? I mean, there's got to be bullets flying. How do you keep from shooting each other?
That's what they taught us at crew training. He says,
okay,
you got to be careful.
Okay.
Be careful. Always a bunch of trigger happy gunners, and they said you got to be careful because you can shoot your own plane down. No, I couldn't because I was in nose gun, but could shoot the wings off their own plane.
Right. I mean, if you got excited and were tracking a target and didn't let off the trigger, you could go right through, your wing.
That's exactly right. So they
right through engine number 2.
They caution all the time.
Oh shit. Okay. All right. I'm sorry to interrupt, sir. And I am hanging on every word right now. So I'm going to shut up and let you go.
Yeah. So where was? Oh yeah. Well, we went. So we went to Casper, Wyoming. That's where we had our crew training, and we were there about 3 months. And then that's where we learned how to fly. Well, co-pilot learned how to fly, of course. We learned how to shoot at moving targets, and we're moving, the target's moving. How to shoot at those folks, and of course we do a lot of ground strafing. Yeah,
okay,
which is most fun for a kid. It was fun.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, this is. You have to remember, I was just 18 years old. This is an adventure for me.
Yeah, big adventure until you realize when you met those guys in Chicago and they got real, right?
I drove it home. Wait a minute. This is going to be fun games anymore.
Yeah, wait, well, what? I think I have high blood pressure.
So they didn't tell you when you shipped out of Newport News what your destination was, but you woke up, saw the Rock of Gibraltar, so you knew you were in the Med and you were going to Italy or Africa, right?
Yes, that's right. So when we ended up on the far side of the Italy boot, it was on the Adriatic Sea, is the Adriatic Sea on that side, and that's where we disembarked in Bari, Italy. And they took my truck up north to Schrapnel, where the San Giovanni, that picture right there. That's where.
Look at that.
Whoops! There it comes up. Yeah.
So that was where you were based out of, right there. That picture, that aerial.
Interesting. These are runways. There's 2 runways. Top corner. There's 2 runways, 2 parallel runways.
Yep.
Right.
All these places below that is where around the pond or lake or whatever it was. That's where the planes were all sitting.
All the hard stands were around that pond or lake.
Yeah.
And
okay.
The headquarters to the group headquarters was right that picture right in that area. And anyway, so when they got us up there, they weren't really quite ready for us. Because we were a replacement crew. The group had been up there since February, and we got there in October. So we were a replacement crew. And so they weren't quite ready for us, but they said, well, we'll get you a place to stay. So they lived in tents, pyramid tents, and with dirt floors. And they didn't have any beds for us or cots. So but the officers got cots, Army cots, but they didn't have anything for us. But they rigged up some kind of a little bench type thing that we could set on or sleep on. You get this. They give us one wool blanket. That was our mattress.
Oh, that's nice.
On a
how thoughtful.
a wooden floor. It's off the ground.
And now I don't think they'd let the Air Force crews stay in BOQs on Marine bases because it's substandard. They make them stay out in the Marriott.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, times have changed, Rosie.
Yeah. Just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, anyway, after about 2 weeks, they got acquainted, and they kind of took us around, showed us where everything was. They had the small hospital, just kind of a clinic more or less, and they had a very nice chapel, religious chapel, and then there was 4 groups. There's 736, 7, 8, and 9, I guess. That was the 4. The group had 4 squadrons, or 4 squadrons. And we were in the 738 squadron.
And this may be silly, I don't know. Did you have any kind of a squadron mascot or anything like ours was? Oh, you're holding it up, laying hide the banner there. So
there it is.
There you go. There's the patch, straight in front of you. Yes, sir.
And of course we had this was used in the 15th Air Force. So that was a pack.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And then of course this was the Air Force. All Air Force personnel had on the shoulder patch.
Okay. So, and that was Army Air Corps actually.
Army Air Corps. That's what's
okay.
Air Corps.
Yeah.
And were those patches sewn onto your flight jacket or?
Well, we sewed our own jackets. Yes.
Okay.
And we of course we had stripes. We were sergeants. When we went in the Army, we were PFs, privates. And
okay.
And then we got overseas. And the enlisted men came up to be buck sergeants, 3 stripers.
Okay.
Then after we'd started to fly, it's kind of interesting little side note. As we started to fly, they made us staff sergeants, which is a 4 striper, 3 stripes.
Okay.
And the reason I did that is because the German Army, if you were shot down and you were a buck sergeant, which is 3 stripers, you were a nobody. But if you had 4 stripes, you were somebody. And they treated you much better if you're
okay. That makes sense.
So that's why we end up, during that time, all of our officers were flight officers. They were not second lieutenants. And then we said, well, what's the goals with that? They're supposed to be when you graduated from, Bombardier
right.
School, you're supposed to be. Well, the story was that if you weren't top notch, you had to be a flight officer for a while.
Okay.
So anyway, that was we kind of laughed about us enlisted men. We kind of laughed about that. What jokers we got for officers. Right. Anyway, that was a sideline. They were great officers. We had a great crew. I of course I say that because we had a good pilot. He knew how to manage people. That's
holy cow! Is that your crew?
That's a crew right there. Yeah.
So for those listening, I have a photo up on there. You can see if you go to patreon.com and support us, you will get the link to this show, and you can see these photos that I'm putting up. I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you remember many or any or all of those names, sir?
What's that?
How many of those names do you remember this many years later? Do you remember all of them? Or?
I'll never forget them. There was all.
Oh, God bless you.
This is like brothers. I'll tell you, they were.
Yeah.
Rosie, is that you? Are you the tallest one in the back row?
I'm on the top back on the. Yeah.
Are you the tallest member in the back row? Is that you?
No, that's not me. No. I was a shorty.
All right. Which one are you?
It's this one right there.
Okay. Second one from the left in the picture.
First one on the back row. The first one on the left, the back row.
First one on the left. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now I got it. Yep. I see you.
Yeah.
Totally. That's
awesome. Of course, the officers are
beautiful.
The one on the first one on the left, the officers, that was the pilot. It was Jim Nixon.
Okay.
And he was a Jim of a guy. There's no doubt about that. So.
Okay. I have to ask, which one was the top turret gunner?
That was the what we call that was the 1, 2, 3, 4 next to the back next to the last. It's a short guy.
Okay.
He was a flight, they were a flight. That was a flight engineer.
Flight engineer had the top turret too, right?
They had so he had that he had a kind of help the pilot with.
Well, and the reason I ask, and I'm putting up a photo now, I got a ride about 15 years ago in a B-24, and I'm showing the photo from the outside of the top turret. My son at the time was about 12 years old.
Yeah.
And as a 12-year-old boy, he could squeeze his way into that turret, but he was claustrophobic. Yeah. And so grown men getting into that thing.
Yeah, they were all very tight. Well, of course, the ball turret was the worst.
Sure.
You have to be crazy to get in that place, because you in the ball turret, you're in the fetal position and down there by yourself, no way to get out. It's I guess you get out, you open the hatch and fall out, I guess.
It's not for the meek.
Yeah.
No, nothing about that airplane was for the meek. In fact, I recall being briefed when we took it up flying was 3 points of contact. Whenever you're walking, there's a catwalk.
That's right.
Between the front and the tail section. And he said, if you're going to go back and forth during flight, 3 points of contact at all times, because if we hit turbulence and you fall off, those bomb bay doors are about as thick as aluminum foil, and you're going for a flight.
That's right.
Solo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely terrifying.
The sidelight, when we took off plane, of course, the pilot and co-pilot, they had seats and seat belts. The rest of them did not have seat belts or anything like that. You just sit around wherever you could find a place.
Can you imagine that?
What I used to do is sit on that catwalk while it was taking off and landings. I said,
straddle the catwalk?
No, you get just to sit on it and then hang on to the sides. They had.
Oh shit!
There were some bars here. I don't know if I've got a picture of that or not. I'll look for that in there. But
hey, Rosie, one of our squadron mates here, Chase, asked if you had a choice of which gunner position, or was it just luck of draw? How did they assign what gunner to what?
At Lincoln, when we set up the crew, the pilot come back. He says, we had three aerial gunners, actually 3 pure aerial gunners on the team.
Okay.
And so everybody else had a position. So they asked us where you wanted to be, and the tail gunner, he's a wise guy. He's from Philadelphia, much smarter than me. He says, I'm going to be the tail gunner. And so that means that 2 of us left. One of them had to be the ball turret gunner. And so, fortunately,
you're like, hell no.
the guy, he was probably 6 inches shorter than I was, and so he said, "I guess I better take the ball turret." So I ended up with the nose turret.
Okay.
I'd never been in the nose turret. I didn't know anything about it at all. This is just a shot in the dark. But it turned out good for me. It was a great place. I liked it. I thought I had the best gunner position in the whole crew. You could see everything that's going on, and more than you wanted to see sometimes. But
was the nose gun and the bomb sight pretty close together?
Well, yeah, the bomb sight was just behind the nose turret.
It was behind the nose turret.
The B-24 did not have a nose turret, but they found out that somewhere along the line, they said, you don't have enough firepower up there, because the bombardier he had one machine gun up there, and he had to do both of those things. So somewhere along the line, they said, we need a turret. So they put a turret up there with 2 machine guns. And so that's where I was positioned. I was in. And bombardier was just right behind me.
Were all the guns on the B-24 50 caliber?
50 caliber, yeah, they're all 50 caliber.
Yeah.
All had two 50 calibers, and the waist gunners had one on either side. They were so we had 10 guns, 10 machine.
Okay. Wow. Okay, just because the Marine in me is just kicked in here. We were always cleaning weapons after we fired them. Did you guys, the gunners, have to clean the weapons, or were maintenance guys clean those weapons?
We had to take care of our own machine guns.
Oh shit!
Of course,
they would put the ammunition in the ammunition boxes, but we had to test fire guns every time we went out, and So that means you had to come back and clean the guns. And so that usually took us, well, with 2 machine guns, it probably took us 2 or 3 hours at least every time we come.
Oh, yeah.
So
was that, so after every mission, after you debriefed and things like that, you guys would have to go out and clean the guns?
Cleaning the guns, that's right. That's correct.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Anyhow,
All
we
right,
gripe about that all the time.
So we left off right where, so you'd been there for a couple weeks, and they finally got you some places to stay and some accoutrements, and then you hadn't started flying missions yet before
That's
we
right.
got you sidetracked.
So they had that. So anyway, the pilot had to fly. He flew 3 missions without us because they didn't want to put a green pilot out there, with the first shot. So
was he sitting in the right seat with an experienced?
Yeah, he was sitting there. He was in the right seat.
Okay.
The pilot was an experienced pilot, flew with him. Usually it was sometimes it was a group commander or somebody that didn't have a crew that had on the flight take a mission or something like that. So anyway, he flew missions by himself, and then we all flew together after that. So.
Okay, I'm going to ask a silly question here. I probably should know this before I ask it, but I'm a knuckle dragon, mouth breather, crayon eater. When you guys got to the theater and were flying missions, was it daytime bombing or nighttime bombing?
All daytime bombing. That's what we all did. Daytime.
Okay.
Now,
holy shit!
That's just the way the 15th Air Force flew. Daytime bombing. They sent reconnaissance planes out and stuff like that. Fighter planes, using P-38s. They would go out and check for targets, more or less. So we all flew in the daytime, except towards about a month or 2 before the end of the war, they decided that if we could harass the general public by flying a plane out there at night, we'd bomb them in the daytime and fly around crazy at night, that they never got any sleep.
Right.
And that was the plan. And so, good old Jim Nixon, he's such a good pilot, had a good crew. We were a hotshot crew. I wasn't part of it, but I was part of the crew. But
come on.
Anyway, so they said, we want you to fly at night, our crew to fly at night.
Just for harassment purposes.
Just harassment purposes, yeah. So we flew 3 or 4 missions. We had nighttime goggles and all that good stuff. And we flew around about 3 or 4 training missions, and then they finally said, well, it's getting close to the end of the war anyway. And they said, forget that. Thank goodness, because we didn't have any runway lights, speak of.
Shit.
There's nothing, So up there at night, you didn't even find a runway. They'd have a few lights out there just enough to get a pilot, but you had to have a smart pilot. That's all I got to say. So we did that. It's kind of interesting. We were, like I say, I always say that we were a good crew. We were one of the better crews. So I'm not bragging, but we were. And that is because we had a good pilot. That made all the difference in the world, what kind of pilots you had. Because there's good pilots and not so good pilots, and we had an excellent pilot. But anyway, every time they would do something different, they'd say, well, let's get the Jim Nixon's crew to do that. So one time they said, well, we want to have an interest of the Army. We're going to have an infantry officer fly with us on a mission. So what they do? They pick Jim Nixon's crew to take this infantry guy up on the thing. Another time they said, well, it'd be a good idea to listen to what the Germans are doing, or listen to what's the chatter of the Germans. So they said, well, to do that, we need somebody speak German, and we'll set it up so we can listen to see what they're doing. So what they do? They got Jim Nixon's crew to take care of this guy.
Of course.
You mean fly him around and let him listen to radio traffic or something? Are you shitting me?
Then we had photographers, and they all wanted to fly with Jim Nixon's crew. They take pictures, of the bomb, see if we hit the target and all that good stuff. But we always had we're supposed to have a 10-man crew. We always fly at least 11, maybe 12 people on the plane.
Oh my gosh.
And I always said, that's fun, but it was because of Jim Nixon. He was just he's a great guy. You couldn't believe it.
That's crazy.
And I was like I say, a punk kid from the farm, 18 years old. And he kind of took a real liking to me. And I think he just kind of made almost like a father image to me because I was so young. And I wasn't battle scarred from living in the city. So anyway, I admired that guy to this day. I still admire him.
That's outstanding.
Yeah. It's kind of sidelight. His daughter lives in Howard, Colorado.
Okay.
And he used to come out and see her, and the first thing he'd do, he'd call me up and say, "Come on, we got to go out to lunch, or we got to go down and visit my daughter."
That's great.
Nice.
I guess that's one reason he paid a lot of attention to me as a kid, I guess. So
yeah.
Anyway.
And not to bring up a sad note, but in the pre-show chat, you told me you're the last remaining of this crew.
So we used to get, there was 10 of us, of course, and we had 10 wives, and we used to get together after the war quite frequently. And I'm the only one left. So they've all passed away. I'm the only one left.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss, but I'm grateful you're here, and super grateful you're sharing this with us.
I am too.
Yeah,
such an honor. Very, very humble. I'm very humbled to hear your stories firsthand. Thank you.
It is. As am I. I didn't pre-brief us, but I want to take about a 2-minute break here and tell you guys about some other history, and then we'll come back and get into more of your flight missions. Folks, if you'll indulge me for just a moment, I'd like to take some time to tell you about something I believe you'll be interested in. Now, you're listening to this show because you are hearing firsthand from the people who experienced them, these historical events in aviation. And that's a beautiful thing. Unfortunately, in our limited lifespan, we're not able to hear firsthand what happened to shape the world in which we live. Well, I've got the next best thing. It's an exceptionally well-researched podcast featuring compelling and rich storytelling called Warlords of History, hosted by Mark Pimenta. In each episode and series, he takes you through epic historical journeys, following the fascinating lifetimes of ancient and medieval military leaders who were titans during their respective eras, shaking the very grounds in which they lived, fought, and died. For example, he tells about people like Alexander the Great's father, Philip II, who laid the foundation for the rise of Macedon and Scipio Africanus. He saved the Roman Republic from near ruin during the Second Punic War. While going much deeper than simply retelling a chronology, he explores how the social and political forces were shifting under the feet of these prolific figures, and the defining events that helped to shape their personalities and understanding of the world around them, and how these forces and events came crashing together in a violent fashion to trigger their motivations for taking on the mantle of war, sparking audacious military campaigns, monumental battles. Empires were created and destroyed, among other achievements. You'll learn about what these warriors did and why and how they did it, and the actions that enabled them to carve their names into the annals of history. Ready to hear more? Join with Mark and dive into each of their lifetimes, their worlds, in the Warlords of History podcast, available wherever you get your favorite podcast. And don't forget to check out the show's website for more, warlordsofhistory.com. We're thrilled to be able to have you on and share some real American history. The other question that comes in from Styx is, did your aircraft have a name, and did you fly the same aircraft all the time?
Okay, our plane, I got a model of it here.
Okay.
We flew, I'd say, 2/3 of our mission with the same airplane. It was called Buzz Job. All the planes had names those days. They all had names, and our plane that we had was Buzz Job, and it was an old beat-up plane, so to speak. I think it flew about 119 missions before it was over. So it was never shot down, and it was a great plane. We liked it because it was an old plane, but man, it was reliable, and it was lucky, obviously. So, and towards the end of the war, the ground crew got a new airplane. And we liked the ground crew so much, we said, they got a brand new plane. So we said, well, I guess we'll fly a different plane because we wanted to follow the ground crew around because we had an excellent two guys that took care of the plane for us.
Yeah,
and they were dedicated. They loved the plane lots more than they loved us. But anyways,
they let you guys take their machine. You know, go on missions.
Then you come back and they patch it up for us.
Oh, gosh. And I'll put this in the show notes, but Sticks put up, it's a web link. It's b24bestweb.com/buzzjob-v1-2.htm. So that's a link to your airplane, sir. So I'll put that in the show notes.
Do you know repeat? Is that pictures? Is it the bureau number history? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm going to try and try and go there and describe that.
Put it in the text here so we can tell our listeners.
But
if you know, my friend, if you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a good plane. We had, and of course, the plane, like you probably can't see, but each group had the tail markings on the rudders.
Sure.
So that you could identify if you were up, because you had to be a little bit careful. We never had any trouble, but you had to be careful because the Germans, they had a few B-24s of their own that they'd captured.
Are you shitting me? So they'd be sneaky flying around?
Careful, So you had to be careful. So you had to be able to area any stray planes showing up.
So can you just walk us through what an average mission day look like for you, like from
great
start
question,
of the alert when you got alerted until
from reveille to taps?
Yeah. I could do that for you.
Sure.
Well, of course, we always had reconnaissance police looking for targets. So we talked, oil refineries and railroad yards and stuff like that. And so they were out the day before, and then they'd come back, and then the powers that be would say, "Okay, we're going to fly a mission to this place." And so the night before the mission, they'd notify our pilot that you're flying tomorrow. And saying that's all, they said, "You're flying tomorrow." That's all I told him. So he'd come and tell us that get ready, we're going to fly tomorrow, so you better be up about 5:00 in the morning. And so, anyway, that's when the knot came back in a hurry in your stomach.
Yeah. And
I myself, I didn't sleep very long that night at all. I was toss and turn all night long. And then so our pilot would come tell us we're flying. So anyway, the next morning we had to get up and we had to go to chow first. And nobody ate very much because we were quite upset about the whole thing. And so then the next thing you had to go to the latrine because there was no facilities on the airplane. So we were going to be flying for about 8 hours. So we had to take care of those problems early on.
I would not have done very well. I'm telling you that right now.
We didn't have
little tight sphincter there. It's like, no, I gotta go.
They had relief tubes, but
relief tubes. Okay,
it was 50 degrees below zero.
I know you don't want to get your equipment out in that kind of weather.
No,
holy shit.
So anyway, get frostbite.
This is not fun to talk about. But holy shit, this was real. I mean, these are natural physiological things, and I think about this all the time. I'm like, I would have had to shit my pants.
Well,
because I shit 3 times a day before noon every day, and this would not gone well for me.
You could handle number 1, but number 2, you're in your pants. That's it. You get pretty close to that sometimes because it scare you that bad. So.
Oh my gosh, that's just horrible.
Anyway,
all right, I'm sorry to
back to the day,
Rosie. Okay,
about 7:00 in the morning, the officers go to briefing in the headquarters building. All the officers, 4 officers, went to a briefing, and that's where they talked about where they were going to go. How many enemy aircraft is he going to run into? Are you going to be any enemy fighters? And all the good stuff that, at the checkpoints where the turning points and where the elevation they're going to be flying and all that good stuff. So all the officers were doing that.
Yeah.
And then the enlisted men, we go to the supply to get our parachutes for everybody. And that's mainly what we got. I think because we always had our own oxygen mask, our own parachute harness, and our own Mae Wests. And so we had most of our stuff at all, but it was stored in as kind of a storage area. So we check that out.
Okay.
And was that storage area by the aircraft or by your rack in your tent?
Their headquarters of the building.
Okay.
All this was pretty tight. We probably weren't less than a half a mile from where the plane was to where we lived. So it was pretty compact.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So anyway, there's an interesting sidelight. I always thought this is great. 50 years later, some of the guys went over to the old San Giovanni Air Base, and they couldn't find it. So finally, they looked around, and finally they saw a gentleman out there, and he says, "Did he know anything about an air base in this area?" And he said, "Yes, there was." He said, "Right up the road here." So they found the headquarters building, which is an old farm building originally, and it had a basement in it. And in the basement, that was the briefing room for the officers, and it had stools, just little iron stools. It must have been, we had probably 50 or 60 of those stools, all row after row. And then up on the head, they had a bulletin board or board with a canvas over it, and that's where they pulled that back and said, "This is where you're going today, guys." So that's where you find out where he's going.
Right.
So anyway, that was the briefing room. That's when they got all the information. And so anyway, they come there 50 years later. They found this building, and they went into the briefing room, and it looked exactly the same as it was when they left 50 years ago.
No way.
Wow.
It was untouched.
The stools are still there. The bulletin board was there with the drape over it. It's exactly. They just moved out, and nobody ever.
It's like the war's over. They left everything there. Nobody ever
frozen in
touched it.
time.
That is amazing.
It's kind of crazy. That doesn't make sense, but I don't know.
Was the airport turned into, because obviously things had grown up over 50 years. Was it like vineyards or something?
It was all gone, but I think it's just more or less farmland. Because
I'll be darned.
We had the runways had these, I don't know what you call them, but steel mats.
AM2, aluminum matting. That was
But the rest of it was just gravel, cadmium gravel. So they were still there apparently. Some of it was still there, but
that is awesome.
They were all gone. So everything was going to go.
So 7 a.m. you'd go get your briefing.
Oh yeah,
get your gear.
Officers get the briefing. The E's would go get the parachutes, and then when would you?
Yeah, they'd come by with a truck and pick us up at the supply room, and then we go out the plane. Of course, officers were still doing briefing, and so we'd get things kind of set up and get ready to start the engines and stuff like that before the pilot got there. And so when we got there, then they'd tell us where he's gone, what target was going to be, and then of course it'd be a groan or happy, whatever. If it was a tough target, we didn't too happy about that. But we was looking for. We had what we called if you had a mission where had about 50 anti-aircraft guns, we'd say incidentally we called that flak. I don't know what that flak means, to tell you the truth. There was so many Germans, that's a German name, I think, for anti-aircraft.
Okay. You say 50s, okay. That sounds horrible to me.
50 gun, but we go to Munich or Vienna or Linz, they'd have 300 guns.
Oh, shit.
And what that reason that was is because the Russians were pushing back and Germans were retreating, and they're dragging all the anti-aircraft guns with them. So we had we had to put up with a lot of anti-aircraft fire. Yeah. So
was that your biggest worry, AAA, or was it fighters?
No, we never. I was over there for all my missions. I never shot once at a fighter.
They must have been getting low on fighters.
Well, they just didn't have anybody left, And of course, when we were flying, we had. We'd fly with a formation of 28 bombers, 10 guns.
My next question.
280 guns.
That's a lot of lead going outbound, right?
Yeah. So they didn't. We'd see them occasionally. They would lurk out there, and if they got a cripple bomber by itself.
Oh yeah.
you have problems.
Yeah. The weakest water buffalo is the one that's going to get attacked by the lion, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, incidentally, one of the sidelights. So, I think in August we started flying in November, but I think it's August or September. They had a squadron that lost 10 planes.
Oh shit, that's a lot
From fighter pilots, because they were getting all the crews were getting a little bit lax about what they were doing, and these guys just zoomed in and just riddled the whole squad.
So they lost 10 airplanes to fighters.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's horrible.
Yeah, it's bad. But normally we didn't lose that many planes. We'd lose a plane or two, maybe one plane a time every time we went up, or maybe two, but not that many. So, and as the war went on, it got less and less. But you had more problems with engine problems or running out of fuel and things like that. And then you did enemy fighters. Of course, we had a lot of anti-aircraft too. But you want
so
enemy fighters. We were just.
So let's get back to the day timeline. So the E's are at the airplane, getting it ready. The officers show up after their briefing.
So then it's time to get dressed, get ready.
Okay.
So you had to take all your clothes off down to your long underwear. We had long underwear, so it's in the wintertime, it's like cold. So so we take it on, and we didn't mind, bare rear, didn't hang it out. Who cares,
Yeah.
So we dressed, but we had electric suits. Electric foot socks, called, and electric gloves.
These are all battery.
These are electric from you plug into the plane, actually.
Oh, no way!
Yeah.
High tech.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, and then we had our flying suits. So then we had coveralls we put on top of that. That was just our everyday wear. And then you put your flight suits on, which were down jackets and down pants, and lined boots, and big heavy gloves, heavy gloves. And you had electric gloves also, So
okay.
You were in pretty good shape. And of course we had to get our oxygen mask and our flak helmets and our flak suits. We had those with us. So we had to bring all the stuff out with us. So we had just a conglomerate of things.
It's one of the airplane could take any bombs, weighing all that down with just the gear you guys each had to wear.
Right. I mean, that sounds like
The guys in one of those places where some of us are in our guard base. It was quite a while to So we can see that or not, but anyway.
Oh yeah,
I can put that up.
Yeah.
So you guys in your your battle dress, ready to go.
We had to have May West too, so we had that's the other thing I was going to tell you. That they give us when we went overseas. It's kind of an interesting story. We all had to check out in a 45 Colt pistol.
All right.
And we carried pistols as shoulder holsters when we were flying. And
that's your air crew weapon. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'd, but when they give us, they didn't give us the guns until we were just ready to get on the boat and go overseas. I guess we always said that, they was afraid we'd shoot ourselves or somebody else. We were checked out for them, but
they won't let you have them until you're on the boat. That's funny.
Gunners is what we were.
Yeah. 50 caliber machine gunners, but we're not going to give you your 45 pistols until you're out.
Let me show you. This is a bullet right here. We can see that or not.
Oh, let me hide this.
Hold on. Wait, stick that up there.
Hold that up again,
Rosie.
please, sir.
Yeah, that's a big.
That's 50 caliber machine gun bullet.
Yeah, that's a big hunk of lead right there.
Yeah, they were big boy. I tell you, we do ground strafing practice. I tell you, man, those things, they'd shoot up everything. I tell you, they just obliterate a target.
That's something.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Anyway, so then we had to get ready to get our garb on, and those officers would come out and we'd kid them. I said, "Well, we're ready to go, and you guys aren't dressed yet." And so they finally get everything dressed, and so we get in the plane, and then to start the engines, you had to have that is airplane, the number 3 engine over here. It had a generator in it. But you had to have it. We had just like we call it a putt-putt, but it was just a little, that's like a washing machine engine or your ancient.
Yeah. So I have a picture up right now, and it's showing there's a number 3, but that's actually the number 4 engine that the number 3 is on. For those that are looking at this, the number 3 is the inboard engine on the right one.
The inboard, it's not there. Yeah. That's when you can start that engine with a little putt-putt. But once it started, it had a generator and it could, or starter, so you could start the 1, 2, and 4 engines from the number 3 engine. Why that was that way, I'm not quite sure. But anyway, so we had to start the engines, and then of course we had to check out, the pilot and co-pilot check out all whatever they did, check out. And with the flight engineer, the 3 of them would go through the checklist. And then after that was probably about getting close to 8 o'clock in the morning. And they said it was time to get ready to take off. And so the signal would be, and then each squadron, which was 7 planes, would taxi out, one after the other, and we take off about a minute apart. Each plane was about a minute apart. But what was kind of interesting, I always thought this kid is interesting anyway, that they pull up, we had 12 500-pound bombs. That's what we carried. And so we go up to the end of the runway, and the runway was not too long, so the pilots would ram up the engines wide open and with the brakes on, and then they release the brakes, and away you go. And sometimes you didn't get off the ground. We lost several planes that way. Get off the ground. So, but not too often. I think it happened 3 or 4 times while I was there. But that was the problem. It wasn't enemy fighters. It was crazy other things went on. So
sure.
Anyway.
Sure. And were you at your station from takeoff to landing, or were you?
None of us are at our stations except the pilot and co-pilot.
Okay.
Yeah, and the rest of us are wandering around someplace, sitting there. Like I say, I sit back in the bomb bays with the bombs. I was taking off.
Yeah. Okay.
Not strapped in, not just hanging on to something, right?
Yes, hanging on.
Is that amazing? And
you couldn't put. You had the guys at the tail section. There was 3, 4 guys back there. They had to be kind of pushed up against the bulkhead,
right,
away from the tail. Wow. You couldn't have the tail then. So in the same way, I think the bombardier and the navigator there in the nose part, and they could stay where they were, but the rest of us were someplace else.
Rosie, I'm trying to keep track of the timeline here, just on an average day. So it sounds like you got up at 5, and by the time you got, maybe is this like 8 or 7 or 8, or no, probably 8 or 9 by the time.
About 8 o'clock is when you're ready to take off. That's when
you're rolling. Okay, 8 o'clock. Holy shit. Okay.
So wow. So the Marine Corps saying holds true. We do more waiting around before 9 a.m. than most people do all day.
Yeah, right.
You were already moving by 8.
Oh yeah, they were doing that.
Like I say, we flew in formations of 28 planes. We had
wow.
Each group had each squadron had 7 planes, and so we had 4 squadrons in our group. So they usually go out. Well, trying to rendezvous 28 planes.
Would you guys circle over the base to get joined up and then go, or would you join up en route?
They had a place en route someplace, in some small town or something.
Yeah, orbit over a small town, join up there.
Okay. Point, yeah. And then usually that was before we got over the water. We had to fly to the Adriatic Sea. And so we were in formation by that time. Okay. That's when things got kind of hairy sometimes, because if it was cloudy, you couldn't see the ground, so you couldn't find your rendezvous point. You couldn't see it.
Oh, yeah.
And things would get kind of testy because you took a long time to get into formation. And you were using fuel, and we just had very enough fuel to get up there and back anyway. So it got kind of nasty 2 times, cussing each other out and so forth. But anyway, then we took off the site, and we flew over the Adriatic, and of course we're trying to gain altitude, because we flew most of the time we flew. We were probably 24, 25,000 feet high. So we had been trying to drive a big old lumbering bomber up with the fully loaded gasoline and bombs. It's hard to do. So it took quite a long time. But once we got 10,000 feet, then it's time to put on oxygen. And that's when we went to our positions when we got to be 10,000 feet, because that was required to put on oxygen mask at that time.
Okay.
So that probably took, I don't know, probably an hour. But before that, we had test fire machine guns. We always had test fire machine guns. So this formation kind of spread out, and then we'd try to not hit anybody. And
so aim towards blue, and squeeze the trigger. Oh my gosh!
But
right.
Our poor ball turret gunner. He was a problem. Of course, we always said, "No, if you want to be a ball turret, you got to be kind of crazy anyway." But he was having trouble with these guns all the time. And our pilot, old Jim Nixon, he said, "Crying out loud, can't you guys help that guy?" Anyway, but he was okay. But he was just a problem.
Hey, Rosie,
you can't even see it on the photos that I have. It's down low, and a mouse could squeeze into it, but that's about it.
Yeah, well, that's right. There's very tiny, and of course, the way that ball turret worked, the ball turret was up. And then when you got up in the sky, they had a hydraulic hoist to lower the ball turret.
Yeah, right.
Drag on the ground if it was normally sitting, if it was just sitting, And so anyway, but
you guys carried 12 500-pound bombs. How many rounds of 50 cal would you carry?
I knew you was going to ask that, because I was thinking about myself, and I don't know.
Well, okay, so let me ask
I would say we probably had at least 200 or 300 rounds for each gun, I suspect.
Per gun.
Yeah.
And so I need you to help me dispel a wives' tale. So were the 50 caliber belted rounds, do you know how long they were? I know they were probably in a box. You carry them out to the airport.
They were in the boxes, so we didn't see that. Huh?
Do you know what it measured out if you pulled that belted ammunition out?
No, I sure don't, because I don't think I ever saw it, to tell you the truth.
Say the rumor is it was 9 yards long, 27 feet. And the reason I say that is because
there you go.
Because guys would come back and they'd say, how'd it go? And we say, and the saying was, I gave him the whole 9 yards.
Oh yeah, well that's right. Yeah, that's where that came from. Yeah, but
okay.
I don't think.
All right, I was hoping you could. I was hoping you could either confirm or deny that for me.
Yeah, well.
Okay, so about 200 rounds a gun. That's a lot, and that's a lot of weight right there. That's a lot of weight in.
Yeah, and those guns probably weighed, I'd say 60 or 70 pounds apiece. They were big guns.
Yeah. And then, but that also tells me you didn't actually load the ammo belts. They were loaded for you. Okay.
The belts were loaded. Yeah, because they'd be much more. Yeah, they'd be quite heavy because it was. Okay. Anyway, when we got to 10,000 feet, we had to be in our positions, and in our turrets, and then we had to put on oxygen mask. Okay. Connect up our intercoms, because we had the intercom. We could talk to everybody on the plane. The pilot could talk to other planes, but the crew could not. We could just talk to within the plane. So we had to get that set up and get your oxygen mask on. We always had our flak suits and flak helmets, but we didn't put them in the turret because they were too cumbersome. We just used those when we was going over the target. We'd put those on. So, and then we take off the target, and then when we got there's always, when you went to the target, they told you what the elevation or told the pilot what elevation you was going to be in, and then they had what they called you're familiar with the PI? I don't know what that PI stands for, but that's the point where you turn and you're going to the target, and no matter what, you stay on that heading.
So is the IP is the initial point?
Yes, yeah.
And then you would turn and head towards the target, and that was your run-in, your target run-in.
And they used to say, well, if the flag got too heavy, we wouldn't go there. But that was not the case. Once you that IP turn, you were on the line to the target, and no matter what, you went.
Right.
And so the Germans knew that. So they'd always figure out where the IP was and shoot
because
everything.
Wait till you're inbound. Yeah.
At some point in the bombing run, the pilot turned the airplane over to the bombardier, right?
That's right.
He coupled it up to the autopilot, and the bombardier actually flew it at that point.
It's what they call the Norden bomb sights, what it was. And that was a gyroscope, I guess it wasn't. Well, I don't know how I understood it. But that was right. And they turned one.
It's magic.
Someplace before, actually, they got to the target. They turned over to the bombardier, and they flew the plane. So, and then and of course, as soon as we all dropped the bombs at the same time. So, in a sense, sometimes you didn't really need a bombardier, except because you had a head guy who was going to drop the bomb. So, but anyway, no matter. We all dropped at the same time. All dropped them all 12 bombs at the same time. We didn't string them out or anything, just unloaded. And then, of course, as soon as you unloaded, then you wanted to rally away from the flak, because that's where the flak was the heaviest.
Oh, you bet.
The sky was bead black, I'll tell you. It was
sky was bead black.
Very scary. It was really frightening. The whole mission was 8 hours, but it's that probably 30 seconds right over the target. That's when that was the scary part. Really.
Right. And now here's a stupid question, but I have to ask it, and I'll tell you why I ask it when I'm done. Could you hear the flak exploding from the B-24? Probably not over the engines.
Yes, you could.
You could.
Hear
was it loud?
You could hear it explode and see it explode, and you could sometimes hear the shrapnel hit the plane. So,
shit.
So it was.
There's a show title there. Sometimes you could hear the shrapnel hit the plane. Oh man.
So it was quite scary for an old farm boy, I'll tell you for darn sure.
Oh shit! Are you kidding me?
I'm
scared just listening to you talk about it.
Sitting here 75, 80 years later, I'm scared.
I'm just listening to you talk about it. The hair on my arms are standing up. I'm hearing like metal hitting the airplane. Every time there's a. And was it
coming through that
turbulent?
Plexiglass?
Was it turbulent when the flak was going off around the airplane?
It kind of wobble, because it didn't know where the bullets or where the explosions were.
Well, and the reason I asked is we've had several guys on who flew in various Gulf War scenarios, particularly the F-16 guys reported that it was surreal to them that they could see the flak and they could see it exploding, but they couldn't hear anything. But, they're in a pressurized cockpit with double hearing protection and a
doing
nice helmet
400 knots too.
Doing 400 knots and nice and comfortable. It was actually warm and or cool to their desire by a little rheostat.
So
None of this caveman stuff that you were having to go through.
These guys are flying unpressurized, with the guns hanging out, open windows and doors, and let's see. Minus, I forgot.
Minus 40,
50, minus 40 degrees.
40, 50 degrees below zero. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And you can't, the picture I'm showing right now, if you look behind the star on the fuselage, you see that's an open window. That's about a 3 or 4 foot by 3 or 4 foot square.
It's about 3 by 4 foot. Yeah, that's where the waist
giant hole.
For the waist gunner. Yeah. It's just a giant hole, and that's on both sides of the airplane. And God forbid, enough turbulence, I swear you're going out. I stood by that window for about 2 seconds, and I went, "Oh no, I don't have a parachute on."
You guys didn't tether yourself in or anything, right? You were completely loose, moving around in there.
We had seat belts in the turrets, but the other guys had the waist gunners. They just stood back there.
Oh shit! Okay.
So you're inbound to the target. Flak's going off all around you. You're hearing dink, 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 hoping that some of that crap isn't coming through your plexiglass window and or the thin aluminum siding.
Yeah. So then,
how long was that run from the IP into the target?
Oh, it seemed like forever.
A small eternity.
It was probably 3 or 4 minutes from IP to the target and of course, as soon as we dropped the bombs, then they'd rally away. There's going to be some other crews coming, some other bomber groups coming in right behind us, or maybe above us or below us. So
Wow.
anyway, so when we rally out, and then of course we were still in one piece, which we turned out to be. By it kind of relax a little bit, but you still, there's always the danger of a fighter. So we didn't get any, but there was somehow.
Well, you didn't want to let your guard down, especially after that squadron lost all those planes, right? For letting their guard down.
You had to be careful. So, yeah. So anyway, what was interesting about the flak, I know to this day, I can't figure it out. Those guys, those Germans, you'd be flying 24,000 feet, couldn't see us. They couldn't see us from the ground. You can't see that far.
Yeah, right.
They'd shoot a shot, and the first shot would be right on you.
Was that radar guided? Was it right?
Something elevation-wise, they were there. Yeah. They were there.
Wow.
I just can't understand. I never could. Dumb kid. I just couldn't figure that out.
Yeah.
And to this day. But they were very good about right elevations.
How about that?
They might track you, be ahead of you, back of you a little bit, or side to side, but they were right on the right elevations.
So you led off our interview with that story where a anti-aircraft round went off right in front of you, and you guys all thought, "Oh shit, this is it," because they got us dialed in.
They got us. We got us. The next shot's going to get us. But I can tell that story now, I guess.
Spoiler alert. So spoiler alert, it missed.
I am so glad it didn't get you, Rosie, because
the next shot was just about, the first shot was about, it's hard to guess how far, but it looked like it might be in, the 100 feet or 150 feet in front of us.
That's way too close.
The second shot was the same place. They were tracking us, but they didn't have the track right. They had the elevation right, but they didn't have a track, so it was about 150. And we had 5 or 6 shots that way.
Wow.
And they didn't hit us. I was said, well, boy, they missed a cog on their gun. We're dead. But we just lucky. We just very lucky, So.
Wow. Well, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
But I did have the cracked turret cover. It was plexiglass, and it was pitted quite badly.
Yeah, shrapnel cracked it and pitted it.
Yeah, so. And the guy, the flight engineer, he was in his turret, and a piece of shrapnel came through the turret and fell down on the floor on the flight deck by his feet. Piece of shrapnel, about 2 inches long.
Oh my God!
Okay.
Inch square or something like that. Yeah. But it didn't hit him. but it got spent. Something like coming through. So
holy shit!
Souvenir.
So in all how many missions did your crew fly?
Well, you had supposed to fly 35. And what they did, the powers that be, they'd look at losses, and they were always adjusting how many flights to take that you had to fly. When we were there, it was 35.
Oh my gosh! So in the beginning, I think what it was like 20 or 25.
20 or 25, I think, over in England it was 25. Yeah.
Oh shit!
Yeah, and that's not that's not very many, but to the guys flying them, it's quite a bit.
Okay, so when you came back from the mission, how many days off would you have before you flew again, or would you fly?
Not every third day. We'd fly about we'd try to fly every third day, but we were over there during the winter. We flew from November to April. So the weather was lousy a lot of the time. Kind of always here, So
would weather scrub your missions before you launched, or did you get?
You always had to go through the process. See, that's the problem.
Yeah.
So you sweat it out and think he's going to be killed, and the next day, and then they scratch the mission. So we took us a long time to fly the missions. We had, I think, I flew 32 missions when the war was over.
Holy cow!
But anyway.
So, okay, obviously, as a crew, you guys, your crew was pretty tight. You ate together, you socialized together. I'm guessing that sort of thing.
Well, the officers were different. Of course, the 4 officers, they had their own quarters and stuff. So we were kind of 2 groups. The enlisted men we lived together, but officers, they lived in another place together.
So on your downtime, how did you keep from? Because there's a lot of stress, and you have to relieve stress. What did you guys? What was the average day that you were? What was downtime like for your crew?
Of course, usually the day after the mission, we had to go clean our guns. We did that after.
So that was several hours of.
That was several. We did that take a good part of the day, but then we had to. We had a shower, in which you had to walk about a mile and a half to the shower. And so we didn't do that very often, but we did, just once a week.
Whether you needed it or not, huh?
Yeah, that's right. But it was kind of interesting in our group. I don't know what the other players that, but our officers, we used to play games together. We played touch football and basketball and stuff like that. I don't know whether the other crews did that or not, but our crew, the officers, they were set. They were above us, we were enlisted men, they were officers. So we treated them as officers. But we used to play games all the time, play football.
Well, it sounds like you guys had a tight crew.
Yeah, we had a very tight crew.
That's
and
awesome.
Of course, as a matter of fact, after the war, it was about 10 years after the war before we figured it out, but we decided we should have reunions. We used to have a reunion every 2 or 3 years with the crew and the wives, and we'd go.
Yeah.
So I communicated with him. My pilot, he used to travel, and he'd come to Denver, and every time he came to Denver, he'd call me up, and we'd go out and have dinner and whatever. So
that's just outstanding.
And a lot of officers didn't do that because often officers are officers, and enlisted are in a different category. But our officers were not that way at all. They was what we call regular
Well, it sounds
guys.
like they were much like, as Fig points out, doing servant-based leadership.
Yeah, we knew our place. They were officers and we were enlisted men. We understood that. Yeah,
but they were sure to take care of you guys as well. Not to hold that over you. But so we got a question from a listener. What was the part of that whole mission process from Reveille to TAPS? When you first got there, what was the biggest surprise or the most something that I would say maybe you weren't prepared for, or that was the most unusual?
I think we did training missions. Also, we didn't fly. I mean, we flew quite a bit on training missions, and I didn't realize we'd do that. But I would say we flew actually on, like I said, I flew 32 missions. Pilot 645. We probably had 10 training missions. We'd fly around, or they'd send the P-51. That was the American fighter pilot, and they'd attack us, But they never get very close. No, and I don't blame them. A bunch of trigger happy gunners.
Yeah. I don't want to get. Hey, hold on, we're good guys. Whoops,
Anyway, we do that. So then we do that. Then we do some practice bomb runs someplace. But most of the time, we had a lot of time. We had a long time off. That's all.
Well, how was the chow?
The officers was not too bad because once in a while when we were flying night, the enlisted men got to eat with the officers, and they had better chow than we did. So
now we're talking.
Chow was lousy.
Yeah.
We had powdered eggs all the time. That's for breakfast, powdered eggs, dry toast, and some kind of Vienna sausage. The Vienna sausage was another one. That's, Vienna sausage.
That's
every day of the week. It was lousy. Tell them it was lousy, but guys, what the heck? We was all in the same boat together. So
did you ever get shit on a shingle?
Well, that's right. We had some of that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's kind of interesting. We'd once in a while, probably once every month or something like that, they'd have fresh eggs.
Oh man, that must have been just awesome.
But the problem was, we knew we was going to have powdered eggs. So, you didn't know when you was going to have fresh eggs. So we always have to have one of the guys have to get out of bed, go up.
Oh yeah, you could. You had to be there every day just in case, right?
Take turns going up and see what they had. And if they had fresh eggs, well, we'd all pile out.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Good.
I have two quick questions for you, and this is you don't have to go in great detail, but I'm very curious. So, on your missions, you said you shoot 2/3 of the missions in the old. I'm just gonna call it the battle axe. It was the buzz job, and. Did you ever have, you had to shut one down or shut two down or maybe got flack in one engine or, did you ever not make it back with all the engines running?
Well, very seldom. I would say half the time we had at least one engine, maybe possibly one engine out.
Half the time.
But,
Okay. That's fair. I was expecting worse than that, but that's pretty good.
Well,
oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
And my next question is, so you were there in Italy on Victory in Europe Day, right?
Yes, it was.
Or were you flying that day? Tell me about that day for you.
Well, we were. I think the war was over. That's when they announced the war was over, May the 8th, and we flew our last mission April the 25th. So it was several days. We pretty well knew that the war's.
Things were winding down. Things were winding down pretty quickly.
But it was kind of interesting when they announced it, May the 8th. We had PXs. You couldn't, you didn't walk in and buy stuff, but they had PXs, supplies. And of course, they opened all that, so they had beer running out their ears, and all sorts of good stuff. It was really, and we always used to kid the guys after the war that the people that had flown earlier and went home before the end of the war.
Yeah, they missed the party.
We were celebrating when the war was over. And of course, they missed out on the celebration.
Yeah, they missed the party. Damn it.
Well, I have to ask, did you bring home an Italian bride?
No.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. The only woman that I can really remember seeing was they had a Red Cross lady.
Okay.
I talk about missions. When we got home from the mission, first thing was you're very tired.
Right.
So that's what you had to undress and, redress. And so you had pilot and co-pilot and flight engineer would go over the problems with the plane and we'd all look for, holes in the plane. So because the ground crew had to patch all that stuff up so that plane had to be ready to go 2 days later.
Did you have to go to a debrief, get an intel debrief?
So we went, and they always had to go to a debrief. And we went over and we talked to a debriefer, and what he was looking for was, did you see any enemy fighters? How much flak did you have? And it was cloudy and blah, blah, blah. And did you see the targets? Bombs hit the target, so forth. And everybody went through that debriefing. But first, when you got there, they gave everybody a shot of whiskey. That was
now that's how you debrief a flight, brother.
That's like just to calm down, or was it a victory?
That was for is because some of the guys, me included, and the only problem is I didn't drink, so I didn't drink it.
So hey, was it one shot per guy, or could you give your shot to another guy? So
I'd trade so maybe a candy bar or something like that. So,
okay.
First, I gave it away. Then I thought, wait a minute.
Okay,
I get something for this.
Remember, we're talking about a 18, or you're probably 19 at that point, right?
Yeah.
Well, I got turned into 19 before we got back. Yeah.
19-year-old Rosie coming back from a combat mission, and he says, "No, I'm okay. I'm gonna take the candy bar." I mean, I totally get it.
But what's kind of interesting, our pilot, he drank, and he'd take that shot, but he would never drink. When we were training and everything, he would never drink.
I'll be darned.
He said, I've got 9 guys counting on me. I can't be carousing around. So anyway,
he sounds like the real deal.
Yeah. So anyway, but then they had debriefing, and then they had the Red Cross lady camp. Okay. And that was the only woman I ever saw on the base the whole time I was there. And she'd give us, we got donuts and coffee if we wanted, which I didn't drink coffee either. So
okay,
but I ate the donuts. And
there you go.
Did you ever, when you were on downtime, did you ever leave the confines of the air base there?
Well, I think probably 2 or 3 times. We went to town. We get a haircut. When we get a haircut, we go to town. We pay a nickel for a haircut in town. And
What an outrage! What a rip-off!
Were the Italians good hosts for you
Well,
at that point?
But some of the big, like Foggia, which was a bigger town, quite a bit bigger town, and they said don't go there because they didn't like Americans at all. But Cerignola, which is about 30,000, very poor. They were more, they relied on some Americans' dollars. So, in fact, so we used to go there once in a while, and so our ball turret gunner, he used to go there all the time to get drunk. But most of the guys,
well, he was in the ball turret. He had a lot to deal with, right?
Yeah, there were some rights and privileges.
We have a listener that has a question, and actually, it's a question that I was going to ask anyway. It's a really good question, and I think I know the answer, but let's ask it, Rosie. When all hell was breaking loose, flak, everything happened on, which member of your crew was the calmest?
One of our waist gunners, we call him waist, he was the armament non-com. He was the one that set the bombs and so forth. So, we had to set the fuses on the bombs.
Right.
Took off.
He had to pull the pins, right? Had to go through and pull the pins.
It had a safety pin in it, so to speak. So if we dropped the bomb during takeoff, it would not go off.
Right.
So
couldn't arm without the pin.
Okay. Safety. It was a safety. We called them safety pins, but that's not were. And so
I thought you were going to say the pilot. So there you go. This guy had ice water in his veins.
But anyway, so that's when we had an armament non-com, and then after he took off, he'd take the safety pin out and stick a wire where the safety pin was. So when they dropped the bombs, the wire was held in place, and the bombs got so they immediately, as soon as they dropped, they're charged.
Fuse would arm, and that would be it. Yeah,
activated. Yeah. So anyway, this fellow, he was a Cherokee Indian, a full-blood Cherokee Indian. That guy had ice water in his veins. The flak would be flying all over around him, and he didn't even flinch. The other white waist gunner, he's cringing in the corner or something like that. But this guy, I guess it's because he was an Indian. I'm just guessing. I don't know.
Well, there you go.
That's pretty awesome. So you're saying, he wasn't, he never cowered. He was just, he didn't, he wasn't, he was just stood there.
He just stood there and took it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
No shit.
Like Stonewall.
Well, that's,
well, that, of course, I'm never in the back of the plane, but I remember the guys who were talking about it. That guy, he's not afraid of anything.
Well, as our man Bago said, if you had to pick anyone to be calm, you wanted the guy that he's pulling the fuse, he's arming the fuses on the bomb. You want him to be the calmest always.
You don't need a nervous Don Knotts type arming your bombs.
Oh, I dropped the pin.
I used to help him do that though, but I wasn't that calm. But he was in charge.
Wow. I repeat. I'm kind of out of questions, and I feel like we've been talking for 10 minutes. I don't want it to stop, and I know we've been talking for a long time, Rosie. Oh my gosh, it's been such a it's an honor. It's a pleasure. I feel like I'm in the awe of. Well, I mean, we are in
awe. Period.
We're in awe. We're in rare waters here with you.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple more questions then, I guess. Tell us about getting home in the reunion. And did you have a girl back home? You were only 18, so, But
I had a part-time girlfriend, but not really. It was kind of interesting. All the guys did have girlfriends. Three of the guys were married.
Okay.
We had kids, but and all of them had girlfriends, steady girlfriends. I had on and off part time. She used to write letter me once in a while, but anyway, she gave to me while I was overseas, so I didn't have a girlfriend. So,
dear Rosie.
Yeah. So anyway, but it's kind of interesting. All those guys that had girlfriends, they all got married shortly after they got back from the war. And of course, I didn't have a girlfriend, so I didn't get married. So,
Okay.
At that time, anyway. So,
well, got back to your family though, and as I think it was Bago, someone pointed out earlier, going, can't imagine saying goodbye to my 18-year-old son going off to be a nose gunner in the European theater.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine that.
It's pretty difficult for my parents, especially my mother. It's just because I was her baby.
Sure.
I was her youngest. Yeah. And
Rosie, I can't even imagine.
So anyway, it was. But my mother used to write to me almost every day. She's stuck with. We had, I don't know, they still have them. Had the Stars and Stripes. They still have the Stars and Stripes.
Yeah. They do. Well,
yeah,
they did.
Actually,
they did.
They do.
20, yeah.
Well, they used to. We used to gripe about that because they'd come out the headlines. 20 bombers shot down today.
Oh shit! Nobody wants to see that, right? With their family and as a crew member.
That back to the States, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
My mother'd have a stroke right there on the spot. But anyway. But we used to love to read the Stars and Stripes because they tell us whether he's losing a war or winning a war. So it was to do.
Mm-hmm. And what did you do when you got back? Did you get out right away? Did you make the military career?
I stayed. I didn't have. There was a point system. If you had 85 points, and how long you been in the service, how long you been overseas, and whatever decorations you got. That's how the point system. So I had to wait about 3 months after the war was over before I got out. So.
Okay.
So can I ask, Rosie, what when you separated from the Army Air Corps, what decorations did you have?
Well, we had the Air Medal. You got the Air Medal. The way they got the Air Medal, if you have 10 missions, you got the Air Medal. Then never ever 10 missions after that, you had an oak leaf cluster.
Oh, yep.
So I had 30 Air Medal and 2 oak leaf clusters.
And was that with Combat V? The Air Medal with Combat V? I'm assuming because every one of them was combat mission.
Yeah. And then you had battle stars. If you Battle of Italy or Air Battle of the War. And I think I had 5 or 6 battle stars. And then we had accommodations for the 454th Bomb Group, which I was in. That did a great job on someplace bombing, and then we got what they call a citation for that. So I had a few. And then of course I had my wings. Yeah, all the flight crews had wings, of course. So.
454th Bomb Group. What was your squadron?
738.
738th Bomber Squadron.
So we had our own. Every squadron had their own headquarters.
So Styx is right on it. He had the 454th received 10 campaign streamers and 2 unit citations. And these were the squadrons: 736, 738, and 739th Bombardment Squadron.
Yeah, it was 30, 38, 37, 36, and 35, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, wow,
that's outstanding.
But one of you guys, maybe Pete, talked about this guy named what the heck was his name? Stephen Ambrose.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The Wild Blue, was it?
He wrote Wild Blue. That was Wild Blue. And he wrote about who was the guy that the guy he wrote about. He was
George McGovern. He ran for president in 1972.
I was kind of interested about that. George McGovern flew the other runway. We had one way. He was on the other runway.
Oh, the parallel runway there at your
parallel
base.
Runways, and he was in a different group. But but what was kind of interesting to that Wild Blue, I wrote my little book, which you guys can look at it sometime.
I would love to look at it.
And I'll say, Stephen Ambrose stole my thunder.
That son of a bitch.
Right on.
We had to land Vis, which is in my book. We couldn't make it around the gas. We had to go to Vis, and not very many planes did do it, but we did. And this McGovern, he was a pilot. He did the same thing. He did almost the same things that we did. He did.
I read that many years ago after I got my ride in a B-24, and it is a well-written, amazing book.
Oh, it's a good book.
And to read and understand, give even some kind of feeling. And we're trying to give a little sense of that tonight, of what you gents went through and how you manned up and prepared and faced the flak and faced the elements and didn't know, you left and didn't know when you were coming home. Today, you go out for a 6-month tour or a 3-month, when you're coming back, for the most part, unless there's hostilities.
Yeah,
but you were gone until the job was done.
Yeah. But it was,
he had to get 35 missions.
Yeah.
And he was 3. He didn't quite make it because the war ended.
Yeah. But I was with my pilot. He always said he went 35 missions because he flew some before.
Right. Started before you guys got a couple extra.
Yeah.
He used to tell me, he said, we were so damn lucky. We were just so lucky. We could have been killed. Many times we could have been killed.
Oh, man.
We had one time we had we took a mission and we got in a cloud bank, the whole formation, 28 planes going through a cloud bank. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God.
So the commander says, break formation. You're on your own.
Oh, shit.
See, so,
that's even worse.
There's 28 airplanes all around you, and he says, you're on your own?
well, anyway,
This sounds like a bad idea, Rosie.
The story a little bit longer. Our pilot, it was a dance, and you just couldn't see anything. But our pilot experienced vertigo.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shit.
And because, you couldn't see anything. Anyway, that's just that's okay. Anyway,
8 years later, BuzzFeed is shot down.
Yeah. Anyway, he thought we were climbing, but we were diving.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. That's vertigo.
But the co-pilot, he saw that something was wrong here. And he told Jim, get your hands off the controls. And he pulled us out. I tell you, we should have lost our wings because we were done. I say, I knew something was wrong. I couldn't move. And then, of course, when we pulled out, man, I thought I was going to go right down to the bottom of it.
Yeah, from the G load, because you guys were doing a lot. When you say lost your wings, you mean the wings should have flown off the airplane, right?
It should have. That's right.
Yes.
A non-combat.
Yeah,
and we had things like that happen to us.
And there were so many non-combat losses for things, similar to that, right?
Yeah,
guys flying in the clouds, hitting terrain, not a combat loss, just weird shit.
And then the other time we had something that was very exciting was we ran out of gas. We were going to run out of gas, and so which would mean we'd have to ditch over the Adriatic Sea. And B-24s, they weren't ditchable. You couldn't survive. So now what are we going to do? So the pilot said, well, maybe we should just turn around and fly over Yugoslavia and bail out. Because that was, Tito was
oh, right.
So he said, there's a lot of parsons over there we could get down. But our navigator, he said, no, there's a place we can go. It's called Isle of Vis. And that's what Stephen Ambrose and his buddy.
Yeah.
So that's where you guys set it down on that little island.
We went down there. It was a fighter plane landing strip, but we flew that big 24 bomber in there. And,
on fumes.
But that's what I get for having a good pilot. He was great. I tell you, that guy could do anything.
I'm picking up on a theme. From the very beginning, you've said nothing but accolades about Jim Nixon.
But he landed. So when we got there, we weren't the only one to run out of gas that day because we had a strong headwind. And so a lot of planes were running out of gas. And so anyway, we landed. And so we were standing around looking at ourselves. And so some guy that was stationed there, he says, there's a B-24 bomber came through here 2 or 3 days ago with only one engine. And he said, they crashed. and everyone was killed. But one of the guys jumped out of the plane, thought he could parachute out, but the parachute did not open, so he hit the ground.
Oof.
And the guy showed me that place. I was crying out loud. They didn't pick him up or anything. Just left him there. Didn't have there's no facilities there. So
oh shit.
Yeah.
So we were there till 2-3 days, and then the third day we were there. We was out twiddling our thumbs again, and heard this squadron of bombers came over. But it really wasn't a squadron of bombers. It was an airplane, B-24, with one engine. And the guy landed the plane, he wrecked the plane, but the guys all walked away.
Wow.
They said he'd been flying almost 30 minutes with this one engine.
Oh, shit.
But it sounded like a squadron. He had that thing.
Full on.
He had it wide open because it's all it could do, right?
Oh, man.
Oh,
being all it could be. Holy smokes.
So anyway, then we stayed there a couple of days, and then we got some more fuel, and then we threw all our machine guns out, all our flak suits out, and anything else we could throw off the plane. Because a very short runway.
Got to get her back here.
Jim took us right home.
There you go. So yeah, there's definitely a theme there, as Sticks pointed out. So, what did you do after the war, sir?
What's that?
What did you do after the war? What did you do for a career?
Oh, I went to the University of Kansas. They had the GI Bill at that time. So
okay.
I went to the University of Kansas, got a degree in engineering. Worked at it for 67 years.
Is that all? Couldn't stick with it? Couldn't make 70? What kind of engineering?
Yeah, what kind of engineering?
I worked on dams, built dams, or designed dams. I didn't build them.
Sure.
Sure.
Oh, that's pretty incredible.
I worked for the Fish and Wildlife a little bit as a consultant. So I worked 35 years for the Bureau of Reclamation, which is a government agency.
Rosie, did your pilot or co-pilot continue flying after the war, or was that it?
Well, the pilot, he wanted to be. In fact, he got a commercial license, but bomber pilots were a dime a dozen.
That's probably not bad. We never a good time right then.
Yeah, but the co-pilot, he got in the reserves, and he flew a whole career. He spent 30 years in flying fighter planes. It was just the National Guard and stuff like that.
So did he retire with eagles or stars on his collar?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. He's always in trouble. He said he spent what they call it when they Chicago
time and hack.
Penalty box.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
But
I can't.
I think one more thing about my pilot. I talk about him a lot, but he was a great.
Sounds like an amazing man.
The guy was 21 when we met him, and I think he'd been in college a little bit. I think maybe a year or two. But anyway, after the war, we used to get together all the time for reunions, and I'd say, "Jim, what'd you do after you got?" He said, "Well, I worked in." He got married, and. His childhood sweetheart, and he said, I worked in a store and had an elevator, and one of my first jobs was I had to push the people in the elevators because, he had what we call an elevator pusher. You push the crowd in so that you get as many people on the elevator as you could. That's where he started, and that guy ended up to be CEO of the Whitman Sampler. Chocolate.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All the way up.
Nice.
I did, when he told me that, I said, "Well, I can believe that because it's just the kind of a guy he was."
That's awesome.
He was
very nice.
I think I talked too much about him, but he was such a great man. I'm here today because of him.
Oh, I get it completely, and the words you choose and the things you say paint a perfect picture. Thank you.
Indeed.
He's a nice guy.
Indeed, they do.
Well,
I think we're going to about to say, I hate to say it, but I think it's time to land the airplane. And
but here's the thing.
I don't want to.
I know. I don't want to either. And, as soon as we end this interview, you're going to think of 6 stories that you should have told.
Yeah,
so
sure
would you have your cohort that I know is in the background right there take 6 bullets or however many bullets you think of in the next 10 minutes after it's over, and we'll have you back because
we'd love to have you back.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
And, to say that we are humbled and honored by having you tell your stories is that doesn't even do it words. Am I wrong, Repeat?
No, and all the comments that we've seen on the live stream feed tonight, people are inadequately expressing, they're grateful to you for what you did, what you offered to sacrifice for this nation. Tom Brokaw coined the phrase "the greatest generation," and indeed you are that. We are. And we're humbled and honored that you're being with us today. And it seems trite to say that, almost cliche, and it really isn't. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, I am so grateful to have the opportunity to sit here and listen to what you have to say and what you went through. And
buddy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm speechless. I'm emotional about it. I'm choked up, and I'm honored. I don't know what else to say, except I think that the only thing we can say is 2 simple words, which is thank you. Thank you for everything you've done, for everything you sacrificed.
I'd like to share the story with you. I know that Bob Johnson got me involved in this to come here.
Okay.
He always says, why don't you edit your book and print it, for.
Right.
And I said, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I'm a low profile guy.
You're too humble. And
well, that's it.
Yeah. But I would love to read that.
Yeah. So you guys are welcome to make copies of it if you want to.
Well, I'm eager to read it and appreciate it. And that's the other part that was the hallmark of this generation, right? Is that these men came home and they didn't speak of the horrors that they saw and experienced, and they just went about their lives about making the country great. And you led by example, and I wish more people would follow your example.
I always thought, thank goodness I was just 18 years old when I did this. Because I looked at some of my crew members that are older. It was tougher on them. We had, I'd say, 2 of them 18 years old, and we didn't, stupidity, we didn't know any better.
Right. Well, right? Ignorance is bliss, as they say, right? But then you didn't come home and chat about it and go, look, you beat your chest and go, look what we did. You just went about your lives, and
college,
we saved the world.
Degree and then he only did that for 70 years.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Yeah. You saved the world, and then you went about your life. It's an amazing story. One of our listeners, Broken Staff Sergeant, again asked, where can you find your book? I'll tell you right now, his book is not being published. He has chosen not to publish it. He's willing to share it with us. We'll respect to whatever degree we can. That we will respect what your wishes are about sharing or not sharing. You've decided you don't want to publish that, and sadly, we have to respect that. I deeply hope you would reconsider and let it be published, but that's your choice. It's your book and your property.
The reason I don't want to publish it because some of the pictures, a lot of the pictures were barred, artistic sources, and I'm just concerned because I remember when Ambro wrote his book, he got in trouble from plagiarism.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't want to get in that mess, So
I say, tell him, let him come after me if you got it.
It's just, I'm too old for that.
Yeah, there you go. You don't need the hassle. I totally get that. So,
I have one last question for you, Rosie, and it's a kind of a sensitive question. You don't have to answer it, and I totally understand. But one of our listeners typed it, and I was actually thinking the same thing. when you walk around town or move around town, does somebody have to walk behind you with a wheelbarrow to carry your giant, big brass balls around so they don't scrape on the ground as you walk?
Well, I like to say that I was a coward, and just like most guys were,
Yeah, well,
at university, you get pretty scared, So
there's no atheist in a foxhole, and there's probably no atheist in a B-24 when there's flak going on. But I'm here to tell you, you lived through it and you did it over and over and over, and that, my friend, is the true.
That took stones.
Well, that's what courage is. You could be scared to shit to do something, but if you keep doing it, that's courage, buddy. Or brain damage, or maybe a little of both.
Well, I don't know. I've been young. That made a difference to me. I just didn't realize the severity of the situation. And it was at the time. Right. I admit it, but
sure. Well, and that's that's what nature does for us. When you're young, you're invincible, and you don't really, think. But it doesn't change the fact that I don't know how you walked through life without dragging those giant testicles across the concrete when you walked.
Right on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, well, I think sadly the time has come for us to land the airplane, so we'll go ahead and do that. And I think the first and best way to do it is, again, to say those two inadequate words. Thank you to you, Rosie. And thank you to all military, active duty veterans and the families who have sacrificed birthdays with mom or dad or brother or sister, anniversaries, weddings, funerals, all that's gone lost. Well, people have chosen to put serving our country first. And we're grateful to you for that. Any other thank yous you think? Yeah.
Dave Hamilton. Thank you, Dave Hamilton, for helping us produce this show. Dave Hamilton does the Backbeat Media. He gives us the bandwidth to produce this. What else does he do for us, Repeat?
Yeah, actually, he works that through CashFly. CashFly gives us the bandwidth through Dave. And then and we got a glossary out there. If you heard a term here tonight that we don't have up there, then let us know. But the glossary is sothereiwas.us/glossary. Has a bunch of aviation terms, a bunch of other terms. I think IP is already on there, but if you heard something tonight and you don't know what it is, write to us and we'll get it up there, please. So, and how would you write to us, Fig?
You'd write to us at Fig, Repeat, or Sticks at sothereiwas.us. And if you really want a good answer, address it to Sticks.
He's out there with the research, getting it done. Thank you, Sticks. So, hey, we got the merch store. Go get yourself some cool looking gear with the So There I Was logo on it. Designed by Sticks, by the way. We've got hats, we got clocks, we got beach towels, we got the bikini. It's going to be spring soon, folks. Drinking glasses, bar glasses, coffee mugs, playing cards, you name it. So there I was.us.
I might need a bigger bikini. I put on a little weight over the winter.
Oh, boy. Some people that weigh too much shouldn't be wearing them bikinis, Fig. Just saying for a friend.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. We need to say thank you to a couple guys that make the Air Force sound good. That let us use their music, and they were also great guests on our show, the Dos Gringos. 4 albums, not one bad song on any album.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, there's Brad Silcott over at bdsaviationphotography.com. He lets us use some of his images. Amazing shots. You can't go wrong. Go look at his stuff both on Facebook and at bdsaviationphotography.com. And then the last thing, we want to ask, of course, we want to thank all the folks who go to sothereiwas.us/Patreon or to donor, sothereiwas.us/donate and put your hard-earned money out of your wallet and put it into our pockets so that we can keep this show coming to you. We're grateful. We're humbled. That is something you don't have to do, and we're grateful you do. If you can't contribute financially, that's okay too. But what you must do to keep listening to the show is share this show with other people that you know like aviation stories, like true American stories, because this is a great one tonight. And I don't know. Any advice for people until next week there, Fig?
Well, first of all, Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. That was from our man Sticks. But honestly, stay safe and check 6.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
Wait, what did he say?
He said it's over.
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor?
What? Was it?
I don't think so.